Okay, good afternoon. My name is Kirk Brown. I'm the Communications Director for the City of Rocky Mount. Today you'll be hearing from Police Chief Robert Hassel. He's going to provide an update on a shooting that we had this morning, an arrest in a recent homicide, and some other initiatives that we are introducing to combat violent crime. Chief Hassel.
Before I start, I would like to just mention my executive staff who is attending with me today. My commander or captain over the investigative division, Captain Staten. My executive captain over our support services division, Captain Ballard. My captain and division commander over patrol, Captain Williams. My captain over administration or interim captain, Mr. Fagans. And then with them is two of my commanders within the divisions. Today, as all of you already know, there was another shooting resulting in someone getting injured at the early morning hours around 3 a.m. An unknown subject fired multiple rounds into a home, wounding an innocent 9-year-old boy who was just asleep in his bed. This child was taken to Vidant Hospital in Greenville, and at this moment, the latest update is that he is expected to recover. The child was not the intended target. We do believe in the initial investigations or the initial phases of this investigation believe this was a suspected gang-related type shooting, and it is still being investigated by our major crimes unit within the Rocky Mount Police Department. With that, I will say to everyone who's watching that the violence must stop. You know, over the last several days, I've heard from many citizens, community organizations, and groups with a lot of things, a lot of ideas, great things that's going to help our community. And I look forward to hearing those suggestions, those ideas as we move forward to provide the much needed resources within the community to help deal with the violence that we're seeing here in our city of the last few weeks. Next, I'm announcing that, well, let me go back. On May 5th, 2022, off of Sunset Avenue on Stone Rose Drive, the victim in the case was a 20-year-old Javante Crandall who was fatally shot while in the passenger seat of a vehicle. The driver of that sedan or vehicle was also injured in that shooting. Today I'm announcing that 19-year-old Antonius Montez Clemens Jr. was turned himself in to our homicide unit, and he was today charged with first-degree murder and attempted first-degree murder. And he is being held at the Nash County Detention Center with no bond. I want to announce also today that due to the increase or the number of incidents that we've had over the last several weeks, the violent crime, that my staff and I last week had developed a plan of action in response to that. Today I've had the opportunity to meet with the division heads or department heads of multiple agencies within Nash County and Edgecombe County, meeting with some of our state partners, Highway Patrol, ALE, Probation and Parole, and others, in forming a multi-agency type task force. This task force is going to be focused using data from our crime analyst unit, identifying the locations where we're experiencing higher levels of crime. And these units, or this unit, will be focused on those areas with concentrated, saturated patrols in our effort to reduce more violence in our city. I also would like to announce that through the support of our city council, my city manager for the city of Rocky Mount, that we're moving forward with 2 technology initiatives within the department in our effort to combat crime. First, our Fuchsias platform with our real-time intelligence center. We're moving forward with partnering with our local businesses within the city in the hopes that they will partner with us allowing us to connect their video camera systems at their business that point towards parking lots and public streets and highways. So that way, in the midst of a crime, that video feed will be directly funneled into our real-time intelligence center, which will allow our officers to have real-time information, video information, directly while they're responding to the scene, in the hopes that that video feed will allow us to identify those who are partaking in these crimes at that moment, but also have access to the video feeds to look at historical data where we can obtain any video evidence that will help us in prosecuting these individuals. Second, we're looking at expanding our license plate reader network within the city of Rocky Mount. We're increasing our network to add an additional 16 license plate readers through a variety of locations within the city, which will be identified through our crime analyst team, who will help us identify the most needed locations for those new license plate readers. We believe both of these new pieces of technology, an expansion of one, or I would say an expansion of both, will assist the Rocky Mount Police Department in our efforts to hopefully bring about more calm, but especially in identifying those who are partaking in these incidents and bringing them to justice. At this time, I will entertain any questions that any of you may have.
Chief, Tim with ABC 11. If the child was not the intended target, who was the intended target in the home?
Well, we're still in the initial phase of this investigation, and we're not at the point where we're going to release that information.
But someone in the home was the intended target.
That is what we are suspecting, yes.
Who will the child be turned back to once they leave school?
I know the family is with the child at the hospital. I can't advise when the child will be released, but I know the family is there with them.
I just stepped in. Did I just hear that y'all caught the suspect in the Sunset Avenue homicide?
Yes, we did. The suspect in that case, Antonius Montez Clemens Jr., turned himself into the Rocky Mount Police Department Homicide Unit.
Is there a bond set on him? Or
There is no bond. He has been turned over to the Nash County Detention Center with no bond.
is he the lone suspect, or are there any other suspects?
At this time, he is the only suspect in that case, but as always, an investigation still continues even after the arrest.
Can you say the motive has been ascertained, or you can disclose it?
No, sir, I don't have that at this time.
But he's the only.
Yes, sir.
When it comes to the new tech, how much does that cost? Is it going to have an additional cost on the department, and how much?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry about that. For the cameras, the city last year had already put the initial cost in implementing that technology within the Rocky Mount Police Department. We already have 67 city cameras, an additional 20 installed police cameras, that I want to say around 30 or so cameras with another government entity within our city. So the basic platform is already there. The additional cost is going to come from the actual cores. That core is what's going to allow us to connect to the business video camera system. And that is at a very minimum cost, which the department will incur. So we're looking at around $25,000 to $30,000 for hopefully the first initial 100 businesses to be connected to the system.
Chief, is that task force going to translate to more officers on the street, either from state agencies or federal partners?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it will. Last week, we had already implemented this plan of action, and we increased the number of Rocky Mount Police Departments in all 4 of our patrol districts throughout the city. With this now multi-agency, including our local and our state partners, that will only increase our numbers within the city.
I know there's been great effort to catch the shooters, but has there been any effort to see where all these guns are coming from? Because the guns are coming from somewhere. Has there been any attention towards where the guns are coming from?
Yes, ma'am, it has. I have had multiple conversations with U.S. District Attorney Michael Easley Jr. So we are looking forward to an announcement on that. We have always had a strong partnership with Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, ATF. So we have task force officers assigned with the ATF teams, and we are constantly investigating incidents and crimes related to illegal gun purchases, straw purchases, and illegal guns on our streets here in the city. So yes, ma'am, a lot of emphasis have been put in there, and hopefully we're going to be even more emphasis on that. I'm not pouring.
What do you want your task force to look like? Are you going to use
people that aren't in this area from like ALE, ATF, and bringing them in, or are you just using your guys that you already have assigned? Are you bringing new people in, or just using your guys that you already have assigned to those agencies?
No, ma'am. It's a multi-agency task force, which includes Nash County Sheriff's Office, Edgecombe County Sheriff's Office, ALE, Highway Patrol, Probation and Parole, Nashville, Tarboro, Pineville, all of our local police departments, sheriff's departments, our state partners here in the area all have committed to join in with our efforts on this multi-agency task force.
That was Pine Tops, right? Not Pine.
Pine Tops,
That's
thank
how
you.
it is.
I hope the chief forgive me for that.
Two brief follows. I know, and like I said, I just stepped in. On the shooting this morning, I believe you have a suspect, so I take it that suspect is still in the picture.
In reference to the 9-year-old, at this time, we haven't developed. No, sir, no one's been arrested. We're still following down some information on that, but we haven't identified a suspect on that at this
Recap
time.
on Sunset, two questions. Can y'all get it to me? The time the suspect turned himself in, and was a firearm ever recovered in that case?
I can get that to you in a second.
And is the lady that was killed on in Happy Hill area, there's no arrest on that one yet? The one that was on Saturday night down here?
Deshaun Evans?
Yeah.
No, sir. No, sir, not at this
Still
time.
large on that one. Still asking.
We're still actively investigating that with the homicide.
On that one.
Always, yes.
Yeah. Were there any other updates on any of the recent cases that we haven't heard about yet, or anything new? I know we still have King. I think we had pretty solid. It was the suspects there. Was there anybody else on that one that y'all looking for example, or
If-
any other cases y'all looking for somebody else as a suspect?
On all the other cases, we will send out a press release. I'm not prepared to comment on those at this time, but we will definitely get out any updates on any other cases. But if there is a particular question on any previous case, I will ask anyone here to please just submit that to our public information officer or the city's public information officer, and we will be more than happy to respond to those individually.
Ask you one more quick question. What did you think of the comments last night from the speakers? I know there were a lot of comments. I know Ms. Copeland, for example, mentioned substations, for example, and there were other things. Did you kind of keep a running list in your head of the feedback you were getting, and did you hear or see anything that stood out to you from the comments last night from the citizens?
No, what I heard from the citizens last night is that we have a community, we have a city, whereas many of our organizations and different organizations, civic groups have identified other issues that may be contributing to some of the issues we're seeing in our city. And that they're willing to work together, come together, and come up with solutions to help identify and mitigate those underlying issues that may be driving violent crime in our city. Some of the ideas and suggestions, of course, I did hear those about substations and things. Those are always on my option wheel, I guess you want to say, for consideration.
Okay, thank
Talk
you.
about staffing, including vacancies.
Ma'am?
Can you talk about staffing, including vacancies that there are already right now within the department?
Well, yes, ma'am. I can't think of no police department in the state of North Carolina don't have any vacancies. We do have some vacancies within the Rocky Mount Police Department, but it hasn't affected where we can't effectively patrol the city streets here in the city.
How many?
Ma'am, I don't have that number right here in front of me. I'm sorry for that. I wasn't prepared for that at this moment.
Chief, specifically, where was the 9-year-old shot, and did you have an emotional reaction when you found out?
It was around 3-ish, right after when it occurred. I got that text message. You know, everyone knows that, you know, this has really troubled many citizens within our city. It's of concern. It is of great concern of myself, my staff, the men and women who are serving on the streets of our city each and every day. When I got notified from the on-duty commander, which is actually standing in the back of the room, as soon as I got the briefing and update on that, I responded to that location. Immediately knowing that a 9-year-old was definitely an unintended target, but no matter, a 9-year-old was shot while sleeping in his bed in his bedroom. It does make you think about your own family. You think about friends. So it's very concerning, which is why I made it very clear that I'm happy. I'm very proud to know that our citizens, our different groups are working together to try to come up with solutions they feel will help us resolve this. They support, I heard last night, a great number of support, much support for our police department, but it was very troubling to hear that a 9-year-old was shot.
Where was he shot?
At this time, I'm not able to reveal that.
Still stable at the hospital, to your knowledge?
Yes, sir, stable and with family at the hospital.
Well, that's a close call. It could have been, you don't want to think of the worst, but he's still alive.
Yes, thankful to God, yes.
Chief, I want to thank all you guys for all that you're doing. But what I want to hear coming from the community is more community involvement. It's going to take the community to help you all. You can put all the substations, put all the police out there, but until people start talking, it is going to take longer to solve crime. So the people need to be talking about what they can do, not only what law enforcement can do, because they are there when it goes on most of the time. So I commend you guys for all that you're doing, and about the state of emergency. They was talking about it being symbolic. You call it what you want to, but it's bringing about awareness, and that's what we want. When I was getting out of my car this morning, I came to work at 5 o'clock over here in Rocky Mount. When I was getting out of my car, I seen that, and I have 3 children, and it hurts me to have to go to work and work 10 hours and then look forward to coming to this meeting to support you guys. So I want to thank y'all again for all that you're doing.
You know, you bring up a good point, you know, in reference to the Proctor Street shooting with the 9-year-old getting shot. In this case and in other cases, you know, there are individuals within our community who have information. I really need those individuals to have information about this case on Proctor Street or any other case that we may be investigating. If you have information, we implore you to please contact our Major Crimes Unit or our Homicide Unit or even the Twin City Crime Stoppers line to make sure that you give that information, whatever avenue it may be, including our Fighting Crimes network on Facebook. No matter how you get it to us, get that information to us. So that way our investigators will be able to take that information and compare it with all the evidence we already have, and hopefully that may be the piece of information that we may need to bring a particular investigation to a close, and hopefully bringing that individual who may have committed a crime to justice.
Chief, in regards to the state of emergency, do you know if there's going to be any more curfews in place, and if so, what are the police going to do to enforce it?
Well, I know our mayor is here to possibly make a comment a little later. But we're looking at all our options that's available to us in city ordinances and making sure that we enforce those that we feel will be proactive in dealing with the issues at hand.
Sir, when you went to the scene of the shooting this morning, can you describe, was there a crowd there? Were people there? Or was there virtually no one out there? And did the neighborhood get a sort of sense of awareness that something happened when you got there? Was there a crowd of people? Or could you tell can you kind of describe what it was like when you got there?
Well, of course, my staff, the Rocky Mount Police Department was on scene. By the time I arrived, you know, my guys being the first responders there, police officers, they assisted in rendering aid, but the child had already been transported to the hospital by the time I arrived. And it was just my officers, my Major Crimes Unit was on scene, my crime scene technician was on scene processing everything. But I did not see, there was no one else there.
How long were y'all at the scene? Do you have any idea when they cleared out, or they signaled, you know, that they'd left the scene?
I was there for well over an hour at the scene. My staff was there much longer than that.
So they were there through the morning?
Yes, but I'm not exactly sure when they cleared.
So they were there for a couple hours?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I mean, of course, as you know, I have a great number of very experienced and knowledgeable staff on all my major units within the department. My crime scene techs, they take their jobs very seriously, and they do a very thorough job in processing any crime scene they're called out to. So that takes time, because we want to make sure that we get it right. So that way we have a strong case when we present it to our district attorney's office.
2 more, and then we'll wrap it up.
Chief, one more question. I know that it may be more of the mayor's thing, but does Rocky Mount have any plan in place to maybe further crime watch or community watch? Something that they can do to help train citizens and how they can spot out suspects and how they can report them, or anything of that sort?
Through our Human Relations Department, Mr. Archie Jones is our Human Relations Director. We have a very strong relationship with multiple neighborhood associations throughout our city. I want to say 16 plus active associations. Don't hold me to that number. They meet on a regular basis. I have an upcoming meeting with Mr. Jones and some citizens coming up in the near future. We're always there to make sure we share any kind of information updates and tips that they may pass on to the members of their community that will help us with any incident may occur.
I have a question, and it's similar to his. We interviewed a guy who's from the streets, who, had a record, turned his life around. He's tired of the gun violence, and he wants to partner with police in the city. In the city of Durham, they have violence interrupters that they have on staff. They go into at-risk communities and talk to some of these people before violence erupts. Is this something that you guys are considering talking about budgeting for?
I know of the Violent Interrupters program and initiatives in many other cities around our country. I have looked at that. I have studied that. I have all options on the table. When I'm looking at new initiatives and strategies to bring to our city that I feel will help address some of the violent issues, I'm looking at it. I'm studying it. So that is a program I'm aware of. Is it an option? Yes, it's an option. But at this time, we haven't decided that that's something we're going to move forward with.
I was at a meeting Sunday night and we brought that up. As a matter of fact, the people from Durham was on the call that does that. So they're all going to come to the city and make sure that
I got one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you feel that we have a gang and a gun problem?
Do we have gangs in Rocky Mount? Yes, ma'am, we do. Do we have, well, we have gangs, so that's a problem, yes. And some of these, that has never been something I've shied away from. Some of these incidents, as I reported in our last press conference, they are, and like the one this morning, we think it's gang related, yes. Have there been suspects if we've arrested involved in some of these activities? Yes, it has. So that's nothing that we shy away from. We have a violent crime and gang unit that addresses our gang issues in our city. So do we have gangs? Yes. Do we have gang members? Yes, we do. Do we have specialized teams that address those gang problems in our city? We do. And this new collaboration, we're going to hopefully strengthen our strategies and efforts in dealing with that problem.
Expel Clemens, the 19-year-old that's been charged.
We have a press release.
You do?
We're
Okay,
gonna pass out.
fantastic.
Yes, they're going to pass out all the updated press releases to everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate your time.
Thank you all again. We have press releases. Jesse, we're passing them out right now over here. Thank you all.